Morning, everyone. Don't you like the idea that it's springy? We just need some rain now. I love waking up in the mornings and I can hear the birds sing. I normally get up around 4 because I write a lot, and 4 to 6 a.m. is when I write. I know some of you might think that's crazy. I can't do it in the evenings, but it's nice that the weather's getting better. And it's nice to get together, you know. So I've got a Google Home device. It's one of these smart speakers like an Alexa or something like that. And I've taught my son, he's 8.5, how to use it. So you say, "Hey Google," and then the lights come on. And then you ask it something. And it's pretty accurate most of the times. So my son is now cheating in his homework using AI, and I encourage it very proudly because I want him to learn how to use this technology. So he will say, "Hey Google, what is a chameleon?" And then the speaker will give him the answer. And now and then you think, I don't know. I like to ask Google, "Hey Google, what is the meaning of life?" I like philosophy. And the best quote I got from Google so far is, the meaning of life is to live a meaningful life. I thought, Google, I can have a scotch with you and a cigar. I mean, we can have a long conversation about this philosophy. Many of us have those kind of devices, or even just if you have a Siri on your iPhone, we ask these devices questions. Some of you might remember many years ago, there was a product called Dragon Dictate. I don't know, any hands, who ever used that? But it was a software, so you got your CD or your floppy drive, remember? And then you had to train this system to recognize your voice, especially if you don't have call it a typical American way of speaking, even though, I mean, we know America is quite wide and there's so many different ways of speaking. But it took me about 6 hours to train. So they give you text and you have to read it and read it and read it so you can find out your own specific nuances around how you speak, your accent and the like. These days, if you use the major platforms, the transcription is instantaneous and pretty accurate. A lot of my writing I do by speaking. And for some reason, I'm very creative when I do the laundry and the cleaning the kitchen. I don't know, I love it. Like a friend of mine said the other day, "Oh, and I love ironing as well." And she said to me, "Please, will you marry me?" And I thought, no, just the fact that I like ironing doesn't mean I'm marriage material at all. But what I do when I do those house chores is I speak to my laptop. And as I think, that creative process, that before you get to the making sure the English is correct and the grammar and the like. And I'm astounded by the accuracy of what it writes and from what I say. Most of my son's friends are Zulu and Xhosa, so he likes to also brag about the speaker to them. And I sat at my desk the one day, and through the door I could see the living room where they are all, where he's now bragging to them. Look at what the speaker can do. And they then switched over to Zulu or to Xhosa. So what do you think happened? It picked up some of it, but I heard them laughing like crazy, and I said, "Guys, what's happening?" And they said, I can't remember exactly, in Zulu they said something like, "How are you?" And the speaker replied by, "Don't be stupid, please." Okay? It's funny, and I mean, they had a great laugh. But it also reveals a massive problem that we have on our continent when it comes to technology. Most of the platforms we use are developed in the US, or Northern America at least, or in Europe, or the Middle East, or in China. These language models are becoming a bigger part of our lives. The ability to not just type what you need, but to say what you need. In Africa, which is a massive continent, I mean, look at that. I didn't believe this picture when I first saw it. Mainland US, India and China and parts of Europe all fit within our continent. Now, why does Africa look so small on most maps? Because those maps were drawn 200 years ago in the colonial ages. Because they wanted Africa to look smaller and Europe to look bigger. But on a real world map, real if you would, scale correctly, a massive place. We have between 2,000 and 3,000 different languages and dialects in Africa. It's one thing to use this kind of technology for convenience. So you might say, "Hey Google, what is my bank balance?" Or, "Hey Google, please reorder milk." But what if it comes to education for our children? What if they're not able to access good educators or good schools? What if they have to use a smart speaker like that to be taught certain lessons, to ask pretty much any question and have an answer? But even worse is, what if we need healthcare advice from one of these speakers? So imagine you're living somewhere in a very rural area. At least you have some connectivity. At least you have a phone that can, which is not the case for a lot of people, but a phone that you can speak with, or a speaker of sorts. And I often imagine my 8.5-year-old, imagine he is very sick with the fever, and I don't know what to do. And imagine I live somewhere where it'll take me 2 hours to get to a doctor. And imagine I can say, hey Google, my son has the fever, what should I do? And now it starts interrogating me on the symptoms. How old is he? What did he eat? Etc., etc. To give me the advice I need to save his life, or to help him. But now, what if English is my second or third or fourth language? Firstly, the speaker is not going to understand what I'm saying. And I'm surely not going to understand what the speaker is telling me, or the AI is telling me back. So when it comes to, and I wanted to just start with that Hey Google story. We have the fastest growing demography in the world in Africa. Many of our countries are the marketplaces of the future, as many of you know. We have some of the smartest people, especially in technology, and I work with them across the continent, who are developing platforms and algorithms that can help people who are hard from hearing. I work with some doctors who are doing breast cancer and prostate cancer research. They go with a handheld device into far-flung areas to do the scans, where there's no medical equipment or suitable equipment. Connected to the cloud, get an almost instant, almost accurate diagnosis of whether it's breast or prostate or lung cancer. It's built here in South Africa, and in Africa, a lot of those platforms. It makes me very proud. But how do we use technology at scale and with the funding that we need across this massive continent that is often ruled, again, by the so-called global north? How do we use this technology in a responsible way? And what even is this technology? So I'm going to talk to you, just lay a foundation of what this AI thing is or what it's not. And then later on in the talk, I'm going to get to just some practical pointers. Will I answer most of your questions? There's no way. Will I give you a detailed roadmap of utilizing AI in procurement? No way. I'm going to hopefully give you a few pointers to go and do some self-study, to go and read, to be hungry for learning. Most of the conferences I speak at, especially overseas, will not have a picture like that. Our first pictures are normally like New York, the skyline, and then it says artificial intelligence. But why can't we use a picture like that and say artificial intelligence? The other day, about 2 weeks ago, I was on a panel with the United Nations. It was a recording. It'll come out in October. It was called an AI for Good panel. I was the only African on that panel. Now, I am an African. I know I look very bleak, okay? But I was born here. This is where I live. I lived overseas. I came back. I often joke, my son was an orphan. I adopted him, my ex and him, when he was 1.5 years. Beautiful brown boy. And I think, can I not use a picture of him and me on my CV? It must count for something. 0.0002 BEE points. No. So, but the context of the challenges we face in this country and across this continent is not even thought of when I attend these global AI events. Because they have scale, they have funding, they can utilize this technology in incredible ways, and they do. Recently there's been a lot of talk about finally we're going to start teaching our children coding and robotics in our schools. Not that any of the teachers, bless them, know how to teach these things. That's a big gap, all right? But are we teaching our children to think? I don't know if some of you were in the panel discussion just now, but there's a book. It's not exactly the title, but it's something like, Is Google Making Us Stupid? Is technology making us dumb? Because it can do so much for us. What is 238 minus 72? Can you do that? I used to do that 10 years ago. Why do I need that skill now? Not only can I do it on my calculator on my phone, I just talk to my phone. I don't need that skill anymore. The problem is, though, that math obviously helps you to think. All right. Are we teaching our children life skills, solving problems? I don't know. I don't think so. So I'm all for robotics and coding because they're going to need it in almost any kind of job they're going to do one day. elements of it, whether they become a hardcore specialist programmer that can write algorithms and AI models, or whether they're just a business owner or a teacher or whoever, but they need to utilize some of these platforms, at least have a basic understanding. So I'm all for pushing what we call the humanities in university. I'm sure you guys know about that. It's the stepchild of universities. Ethics, philosophy, religion, art, and language. Who studies that anymore in any case? Because what kind of job are you going to get after doing that? Those are fundamental to teaching us how to live and how to think, irrespective of your specific worldview. So a piece I wrote in Business Day, I write for them weekly, on Wednesdays it comes out, but a piece I wrote about a month ago, and I had quite a lot of interesting feedback, is saying we should focus on the humanities as a precursor to teach coding and robotics. We should teach our children and our colleagues and our peers, and ourselves for that matter, how to think. Now that doesn't mean you can do the math thing I just said, but how do you critically think? How do you solve problems? There's a number of things that AI can't do. It's not as powerful as we think it is, even though it is the most powerful technology we've ever created. And where it will be going is scary, and I'll touch on that. I did some work for a corporate investment bank in Sandton in July. And they brought in, I was still with an audit firm, they brought in all their business bankers. Now in CIB, that's where they deal with the multi-billion rand accounts, like Sasol and Nampak and whoever. And these personal bankers and their teams are the trusted advisors of these boards of these big companies. And the question they had is, how do we use automation, AI technology and the like to become better at serving our clients? Most in the audience were bankers who were in their 50s and 60s. And I had a keynote opening for the event in Midrand, and then we had some more technical discussions, and Microsoft was there with us and others. But you could see as the event started, these older bankers all sat there like this. You know, what is this little snothead going to teach us now? Okay, almost 50, so not really a snothead, but I mean, compared to their experience. Okay. And but we realized that would be an issue because a lot of the consulting work I do, that issue comes up. Don't come here with all this automation stuff or this AI stuff. We don't even, for the large part, understand what it is. And a big part of what I do is to try and get people, especially business owners or executives, to understand what it is and what it is not, and to know how to use it for good in your business. And once you get them excited about it, once they really understand what it is about, and they start small, that's the other key thing. Don't just AI your whole business, whatever that means, because that's sometimes what customers ask me. Help us AI everything. What the hell does that mean? Okay, I don't even know what that means. Start small. Best change management, water cooler discussions, difficult in a virtual world. Imagine you automate somebody's job and you take the stuff they in any case don't want to do. Administrative, back office, repetitive stuff. Very few people like doing those things. Take that away. Let the robots do what the robots are good at. Set your people free to do only what people can do. So for that banking crowd, we had this triangle in 3 pieces. And the bottom part of the triangle was your most mundane, lowest value, repetitive stuff. An email comes in and say, I need this. And you can extract the text from that email through algorithms. You can know what it means. You can then, so it might be a purchase order. Purchase order comes in. First you check, is this a customer I can sell to? In other words, is the account up to date? Check if we have stock. If we don't have stock, check if our suppliers have stock and what the timeline for fulfillment would be. And then process the quote or even the invoice or whatever. That can already be done without any human intervention and so much more. So that's what we said to these bankers. All that mundane stuff, let the robots do it. The middle tier in this triangle was your digital interaction with your customers. Even easier to automate because it's structured data. That's what we call it. Unstructured data is like voice notes, WhatsApps, emails, handwritten documents in particular, but digital interactions through an app or a website is the easiest to automate. The top of the triangle, that little pyramid at the top, is the stuff that only humans can do. What can you not automate? There's a lot. Just some shout-outs, right or wrong. Tell me a few things that you think we can't automate with AI technology. Negotiations, that's good. How about experience? Human experience. There's no way of automating that. Can you automate a toxic culture away? Can you automate leadership, especially very bad leadership? Get it better through automating it. Can you automate intuition and care and empathy? Can you automate that feeling of, I don't even know why I know this, but when I sit with this customer or this colleague, I can pick up what's happening, because that comes from experience. We're not always right. Sometimes we have a gut feel about a person. My experience is that most of the time that gut feel is right. Not always. Science can't explain that gut feel to us yet, because we've got thousands of data points in our heads. I've seen this before. I've seen somebody look at me like that before. And now you start, without even knowing it consciously, putting these things together, and you can see there's a problem. How do you AI that? Okay, so that few days with those bankers turned out really well, because the message they got out of that triangle kind of lesson is, let's automate the stuff you hate to do in any case. And the stuff that you should do, a lot more face time with your customer, a lot more critical thinking. Let's set you free, because in the background that stuff is automated, is happening. Set you free to sit in front of your customer. You know, banking and our finances is a very personal thing, of course. If I wake up tomorrow morning and my bank account is empty, and I'm not talking about the last week of the month, because that's often the case, okay? But say something happened, you were hacked, they stole your money. I don't want to speak to a chatbot. I don't want to speak to a call center. I want to drive to the branch and stand there until I see the manager. And I don't want to leave until they fix the problem. The more so if it's healthcare. We're talking more and more these days about automated decisioning systems. So imagine your hospital or your doctor is running an algorithm. You need to go see the doctor. This child is sick. And the algorithm decides when there's an opening for you. I don't want to speak to an algorithm. My son is sick. I want to speak to a doctor right now, and I want to go see them right now. That's even more personal than finance. It's our loved ones and our own health. Biases in data is a big thing. I'm sure you've heard of that before. Because what if I just live on the wrong side of the track? I'm as credit-worthy as somebody else, same kind of income bracket, and so forth and so forth. But access to credit or to healthcare is determined by an algorithm that's got bias in it. Biases is one of the biggest problems we have in utilizing this technology going forward. One of the best examples is facial recognition software. You know what it struggles with even today? Recognizing female faces and people of darker skin tones. You might have seen in the US around the Black Lives Movement thing how many false arrests there were through using this technology. And why does that happen? And I say tongue-in-cheek, but I think I'm right. Because it was developed by a bunch of white guys in Silicon Valley. And even if you mean it well, we put biases into our data sets. So just think of how that'll impact your organization and your life maybe. What I tell my customers to do is the core team developing and implementing this technology should not just be technologists. Bring in a multidisciplinary team, HR, legal, organizational design people, culture people, and the like. More importantly, bring in a whole diverse lot of people, different genders, different ethnicities, different ages, if possible from different parts of the world. Because even though we mean it well, we have biases that we can't see. Now imagine you creating the most powerful technology that's ever created, and you infuse it with your biases without knowing it. What impact will it have on us? This one is a slide I can talk about forever. It's a bit about where are we going with this technology. And yes, I'm coming back to hopefully a few points that'll make it more practical for you. In the past, or even today, a lot of us had to sit at our desks, at a desktop computer, had to plug in the network cable to do anything. Later on, we can plug it in and actually access the internet. Later on, we had wireless internet, so you don't have to have a cable anymore. And obviously, then later on, we had laptops, which made it a bit easier to carry these things around. Then we got to the smartphone era. Most of us in this room will most likely have a smartphone. It's more powerful in computing power than most computers 5 years ago. But now I don't have to sit at it anymore, at the desk. I carry this thing around in my hand. And this thing in my hand, this mobile phone, is a big problem, which I'll touch on just now. A lot of us now have smart watches, wearables. So you no longer have to carry it in your hand even, you just wear it on your body. I saw an advert the other day for smart earrings. And I'm thinking, what does that do? Does it pick up my heart rate? I don't know, maybe it starts blinking when I'm excited or something, okay? It's a great thing for medical care because we have more and more smart devices that can be implanted into people with their heart rates, etc. Most devices in a lot of modern hospitals are connected to the internet some way or another. But imagine you're on an insulin pump and it's hacked. What then? What if, because that is the dark side of this technology, for all the benefits it can give us, what if it falls into the wrong hands? What if during an operation, the data that comes through that the doctors look at is incorrect because it was hacked? What if you can switch off certain implements in a hospital remotely, which is very, very possible? But now we carry these devices on us and more in us. And the last picture you see there is what we call the brain-computer interface technology. It's where probes are implanted into our brains. Small probes, you don't even need a proper operation. It's a small incision. It's done by Elon Musk, Neuralink. There's another company that actually, I think it's about 3 weeks ago, they got FDA approval in the US to actually start doing this. It's been tested on pigs and other animals for a long time. Now, the potential benefits of brain-computer interface technology is immense. People with dementia, Alzheimer's, it can really help them because in a way you hotwire the brain with these probes. People who have lost hearing and sight, you can help them get that back through this technology. People with brain injuries. Also, it can make us very smart because now imagine you can upload your brain to the cloud or download. Because remember, a lot of us need that. I definitely need that, just to get a bit smarter. I mean, we already in our hands on our mobile phones have access to all the technology, all the information that was ever created by mankind, humankind. Our challenge the last few years was not accessing information. It is what do we do with all this information? You remember going to the library as a kid at school? I don't know how young or old some of you are. I loved the library because I was a geek since I was small. I love the fact that I had to go to those drawers, and then there were these cards, and you have to really, it was like a mission to find that book. And then you had to, and I still go to Eunice's library, there near me, 8 floors, 8.5 million volumes. You walk in, you smell those books. It's sacred. It's a sacred space. Now imagine that whole library in my hand, which is the case. But now imagine that whole library in my brain already. What if you can read my thoughts through this probe? Even worse, what if you can influence my thinking? So what if you can dictate what I should think? Because that is the most private part of me, is my thoughts. I can live in North Korea and pay lip service to the great leader, but in the back of my mind still think he's a bit of a whatever, okay? But what if they can track what I think? Right? What if big corporations can track what I think? You know, they can already. Have you sat next to your phone speaking about mountain biking and then tomorrow you've got the adverts in your feed? Because they are always listening. We are always under surveillance. We're even getting to a point now when some of my corporate customers, whether they are in a virtual board meeting or in an actual one, people have to put their mobile phones away, not just off, away. There's this one bank that I work with there, in their boardroom, there's this, like a little locker system. You put your phone in, you lock it, you take the key before you go into the boardroom because you don't know who is listening. Imagine from an industrial espionage point of view what can happen if people pick up what you're talking about strategy-wise and the like. Even worse is we're getting, and I'll get to this slide now, there's a lot of talk about the metaverse, there's a lot of exciting things about it, but what if we start living our lives more and more in a virtual space? What does that mean then to be human? What if part of my brain is artificial? What if some of my body parts are 3D printed? Am I still a Homo sapien? Depending on how you see history, 50,000 years or so ago, Homo sapien conquered Neanderthals. A lot of philosophers are saying we are at such a switch again, where a more superior being will start overtaking humanity. The challenge now is just that we are creating it. We are creating, or have the possibility of creating superhumans with great longevity, great wealth, great health, great brain power. And I'm not saying all these things to scare you. This is stuff that's happening right now. How it will impact our daily lives and stuff, I'll get to a bit more. This is not Hollywood. You know, I often show 3 pictures to an audience. The one is this Terminator robot with the red eyes. The other one is like a cute little robot that can help you. And in the middle is just computer code. And I say to people, which of these 3 pictures, Terminator, cute robot, code, represents artificial intelligence most accurately? And even today, and this is now 6 years of doing that talk, people will pick the evil robot more often than not. But it is not the evil robot. It's also not the cute robot. It is the code. Because like all of our creations, it is in itself neutral. It's like nuclear power. Destroy a city, warm up a city. It is, we decide what we do with that technology as a collective. AI is already weaponized. There's even indications that kill decisions are automated in the Ukraine war. It's one thing if a drone, through facial recognition, picks up, that's my target, sends it back to a commander, a human, to make the decision, will we launch the missile? But the control of kill decisions are now in the hands of the robots. They don't miss, we miss as humans. But what if that terrorist that you want to kill walks down the road with a 5-year-old little girl next to him? Well, and there you can program it sometimes like that if there's another person in the vicinity of the kill zone, don't shoot. But will the robot say what most of us fairly decent humans will say? You can't do that. Look at the little child. Because we have a certain morality in us. Can you automate that? You can't. All right. So, are we creating a dystopian future? It's going to get better, guys, so don't be too worried. This is a picture from the Great Depression. A great author worth reading is a guy called Yuval Noah Harari. Some of you might know his books. He became famous through writing a book called Sapiens. Then he wrote a book called 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, and then he wrote a book called Homo Deus. And if you understand Latin, it means man-God, or will technology create us to be like God-like beings? What I like about him, and there's another author called Nick Bostrom at Oxford University, the leading voices in where this technology is going is not from Silicon Valley. It is from philosophers, ethicists, and historians. And we need them. The greatest need, the greatest skill we need into the future, it's not machine learning engineers, quants, data engineers, data scientists. We need ethicists and philosophers. Because we're opening up a can of worm that we had never to think about. Designer babies is already a reality. It's not allowed in most of the world. We think it's happening in China. Imagine you can go to your local postnet for a body part or a baby. Imagine you order it on an app. So we maybe still share some of our genetic material between the parents, but say, firstly, I want you to engineer out all the inconsistencies in our genetical history. Heart disease, cancer. So imagine you can, and then you say, okay, firstly, it must be a super healthy baby. I want a boy, he must be 6'3", beautiful brown color skin and blue eyes, or whatever. Go pick up your baby at the drive-thru. And I'm making a joke now, but theoretically that's possible. Re-engineering genetical material for a better outcome in human beings. Will that baby be Homo sapien? Imagine the Nazis had this technology. Because remember, they got rid of the so-called undesirables, the Jews, the Gypsies, the Freemasons. They also got rid of a lot of people who had brain problems or physical problems, because they wanted to create this super race, this Übermensch that Nietzsche spoke about, even though they took him out of context. Will we get there again? What if all the rest of us who can't afford this technology, what if there's just a small minority who are superhuman, super rich, super powerful, will live for many, many years? And that's what Harari speaks about when he says, are we creating a useless class? I don't have answers for this. Will we automate most jobs? I think we will, or be able to. But at least we should grapple with it, especially in our country with our unemployment numbers. Okay, soon it's getting a bit happier. But I need you to understand this, because I find that a lot of people either don't understand this technology at all, or they have And I also have a limited view, but I've been implementing it, and I work with some customers, I know something, but people either fear it or they are overly optimistic and they want to AI everything. My board meetings or client meetings often start like that. Here's a whole board or whole team, and they say, we want to use AI. And my question is, to do what? And then they look at each other in a weird way. Because AI will fix our problems. Technology will fix our problems. Back to, can't automate stupidity, can't automate people who don't understand their jobs. Before I get to this slide, one example. A big hospital group about a year ago brought me in. They've got about 83 hospitals in the country. And they want to automate the front desk of their hospitals. You know, when you walk in to see the doctor, or you are coming from an operation, or you're in pain or whatever. And we know that it's a very admin-intense process. The forms you need to fill in, the medical certificates, the medical aid detail. And often you have to do it again, even though you were there 2 months ago. Very repetitive, very paper-intense. Great candidate for automating some of those things. So these executives in the boardroom were drawing all these pictures about how they think they can automate this front desk scenario. It's also obviously heavy costly for them because of all the admin people. And I said to them, have you actually spoken to some of these people whose jobs you are planning to automate? And they said they haven't. And I said, I'm not willing to help them. Because it's a stupid thing to do. For 2 reasons. Firstly, you need to take those people on the journey with you. Because if you want, with our nature, if you want me to storm the castle gate with a pitchfork, let me worry about my job. Especially if 10 of my mates at work feel the same way. The amount of resistance people will give on some of these digital initiatives because they don't understand it and they fear what will happen to them. Never underestimate the uprising in your business if people don't understand what you're doing. The second reason is there is inevitably experience and knowledge in those people that you at the top will never know about. You will start automating stuff that will make no difference to them. I don't want to offend you, but I call it, big corporate in particular, you've got these bullshit layers. You know about that. The message they get at the top about how great everything is filtered immensely. Remember that TV program, Undercover Boss? I think our execs should do that more, especially if people don't know who you are. Because if you announce, if you're the CEO of a bank, and you say, on Tuesday, I'm coming to visit the bank, man, they're going to clean that place up. They're going to put pictures of everything everywhere and whatever. But put on a hat and sunglasses and go visit the branch on a Saturday morning and see how long people wait in queues. Don't let your digital team or your CIO or all these smart people tell you what's happening. Go and see for yourself. I then got their permission to actually sit down with 20 of these front desk hospital people. And it was in a very relaxed environment. I didn't, this is like my consulting gear, but I learned this when I worked for a big audit firm. When I walk into your office like this with a briefcase, crap's coming your way. Somebody's going to get fired, somebody's going to get replaced. Okay, so don't do that. Just on the side, a funny story there. I went to an investment bank in Sandton, must have been 8 years ago. They had a new CIO, Chief Information Officer. I worked for a big global firm. We dress up like this. It's the first time I wear a tie in 3 years, I had to go look for it. But I thought I'd dress up a bit for you guys, okay. But when I get to my car, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and hoy this thing away, definitely, okay. So we got into the lift to go up to the top floor of this beautiful building in Sandton. And as almost like in the movies, as the doors closed, there was a hand, and the doors opened again. And this really scruffy-looking guy, I haven't shaved for a long time, ripped jeans, tattoos and stuff, stood next to us, me and a colleague from Europe. And I've learned my lesson because I've done this before. We start talking about the meeting we're about to have, not knowing that person is with us in the lift already, okay? So this new CIO, one of the smartest people I ever met with, was this scruffy-looking, I thought he's the plumber. Okay, so you never know. I have no idea how I got into that tangent. What was I talking about? Okay. Where am I on my slides? Oh, the hospital people. Often I do this. So I design my slides for me because the pictures, I'm a lower grade student. The pictures help me remember what I wanted to say, okay? And also, I don't want you to read 55 words in every slide. I then had a low-key, not dressed like this, t-shirt and tattoos, meeting with these 20 people, coffee, explaining them what we're going to do, etc. And I took notes about some of the things that they think will make life better for them. Because like most people, they want to do a better job. like most of us, they want to go home at least now and then and feel, I feel good about today. I actually helped some people. I don't have the frustration I have most days. And you know what was the biggest problem we had to solve in this particular hospital? Is that the printer was too far from them. So for every patient interaction, on average, they had to walk 3 times to the printer to get documents, to get signed, scanned, etc. So I then got permission. So as an AI thought leader, I got permission to move the printer closer. Okay? We increased their productivity with 380%. They loved their jobs. Now, there were a lot of other things we had to fix. Did I use AI, machine learning, robotic process automation? No. Common sense. And that's what I want to leave you with. I've got 4 minutes left. I'm going to actually skip that slide. Oh, I want to get to thank you. The other day I fell off a stage. It was a stage like this. Afterwards, so thank you everyone. Okay, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, let's just make it practical in the time we have left. Hopefully, and guys, this is such a big topic. And there's so much I would have loved to cover. If I can leave you with this technology is very real. It's permeating our everyday lives, especially if you have a smartphone. The ethical, philosophical, potential damage is immense. Biases in data sets, discriminatory against certain races or genders or people in certain areas is a huge problem. Do we have to fear it? No. Is it going to take over the world? Hopefully after we die, because I think it's going to happen one day, but it's still far away. Does it offer us great promise to use it in our businesses? Educating our children, absolutely. So when you think about the kind of jobs you do, and I mean the use cases in procurement and procure to pay, etc., is immense, but you can Google that. You don't have to ask me to tell you. Start with a people-first initiative always. Take your people on the journey with them. Get from them and their experience the things that you should automate or AI or those kind of things. Don't just listen to the vendors who are there to try and sell you some sort of a platform, some sort of a deal. Don't do it out of a fear of missing out because your competitors are doing it, you better do it too. You know, I've digitized more businesses through Excel than with artificial intelligence. If you do a few VLOOKUPs in Excel, like most of you can do, you can, depending on what the problem is that you're trying to fix. Bring the printer closer to your people. Don't lose your common sense. Don't let these smart AI people tell you what to do. You need them, but know enough about this technology through YouTube videos, through just reading up a bit, through being hungry, to understand what it's about. And I want to leave you with this. The final judge of whether your digitization or AI or robotic efforts are working is your customer, or whoever that stakeholder is. You can say, we had 50 bots, now we have 100. Woohoo! So what? Will your customers say, it's actually easier to engage with you? When I phone your contact center, you already know a lot about me. I don't have to go through all those stupid questions. My billing queries are handled quickly through a conversational AI chatbot, and so forth. That is the ultimate, I think, measure of success. And with that, and I wish I had a lot more time, hopefully, even if I sparked some thoughts, thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.